I know there's a lot going on in the world right now, and news is coming in about a lot of other very important topics. And I think it was a couple of weeks ago, before the war, before all these things had happened, they were talking about the files, the UFO files that are going to be released, and whether or not, it was one of the bigger stories. And obviously between that story and other stories, taking a back seat to what's happening over in Iran right now. Well, doesn't mean it's still not being tracked. So Rep. Luna was discussing about the fact that she had actually met with the Department of War, or going to meet with the Department of War. And let me play her clip. Then we'll discuss afterwards, because there is supposed to be something coming potentially next week through this. But here, take a look at this.
We are going to be working very closely with the White House. I have meetings set up next week with not just the FBI, but the Department of War to push for a very specific list of documents. I believe it's over 20 documents specifically that we know that they are housing, that they have previously denied us access to as members of Congress, which should alarm every American, but will be similar to some of the footage that you've seen us release from my task force, as well as the footage that you have up on your screen right now. I can slightly allude to it right now, but we still are waiting on the official D-class. But once we receive it, I will be actually sharing with the American people some stuff that was briefed to us directly by the FBI, and be able to share more information on that. And so based on the tech, if you look at how these things are moving, some people will say, well, this could potentially be drones or advanced technologies from other adversarial governments, which is exactly why we should be able to access this information and to debunk that if possible. But there are certain things that we can't explain. And I was not the only member of Congress that saw that. Many members on my task force actually came into the briefing, as well as other individuals that are currently looking into this. And so we will be revealing that information. We will be ensuring that the declassification order by the president is followed through on. And again, I'm not telling people what to believe, but yeah, it's definitely hard to explain.
Right. So this is one of those things where, okay, the task force, and by the way, two members of the task force, both Luna and Burleson, when they were asking, we had heard that they had asked Hillary Clinton about UFOs. Well, the clips in the video had come out about what they asked, and Burleson actually asked. It wasn't just like random. It might have been random as opposed to what they were talking to with Epstein, and whether or not it was related, I don't know. But it wasn't just like some, hey, by the way, what do you think of UFOs? It was like, these are two people who were involved very heavily with the subject. And I thought the way Burleson actually posted the question was respectful, and he asked certain things about it, and he wanted to get information for the topic that he's covering, and used the opportunity to do it. So, and her answer was pretty much, we had investigated these things. We looked at these things. There's someone on my team who was very much into it, right? So it's those types of things that are going to start to open up a little bit more. More conversations going to come out more, because with that answer from Obama on the podcast, and then the follow-up with Trump, and then Trump talking about releasing these documents, and basically now telling them, you're going to have carte blanche to go talk to the FBI, talk to the Defense Department, and get your information. People will start to answer these questions a little bit more seriously now, and it won't be as taboo. Back in the day, when you'd ask any of these people, I don't know, who knows, maybe. When clearly there were people that were working on these things and interested in these things and consistently asking questions about these things. And as Luna said in that clip, there has been many times where she and other people have been denied with some of the things that they've tried to get done, and they've tried to find these documents. And so the real question then starts to be, will they actually give them these documents? And what can you actually, as you say in that, you're going to reveal to the American public, what will you be able to reveal? Because here's the one thing you didn't say inside of that, and like everybody says this, everybody, and I think not a lot of people disagree with this, that really one of the most important things with all this is protecting national security. And if it turns out that these documents that she wants to get a hold of does show that we have certain bits of foreign equipment or things that we've been working on for a bit outside, and it's not extraterrestrial or anything to that, it's just stuff that if it got out there, it would give information to adversarial governments, then you can't release that stuff. I mean, you can't, because then you're opening that up. But if the answer is, well, actually what it really means is that it shows and proves that it's technology within our stuff that we can't divulge to you guys. But it's got to be factual, and it can't just be made up in the way that they did with the drones. When they said it with the drones, well, the drones, it's FAA. No, it wasn't. You can't just lie, and you got to find out all these different things. But she seems very convinced, and as she's talked about many times over, and I think, and you guys can tell me in the quotes here if I'm wrong, I think she consistently misquotes Grush. I don't think that Grush has ever definitively said that he believes it is interdimensional. I believe he said it's a possibility, and with the quantum physics and these types of things, he's talked about interdimensionals, but I don't think he's definitively ever said for himself, I believe that these are interdimensional. When asked during that hearing, he was asked about interdimensional, and he even said, he said, look, I don't know as much about quantum physics and these types of things, and I don't want to sound out of place here, but certainly those types of things have been discussed, but he never definitively says that. And in her interviews, when she talks about it, she kind of seems like he definitively says that. Now, maybe he has definitively said that to her in skiffs, or definitively said that to her when he was working with them in Burleson. So that's definitely something that is a possibility. But she seems to think very much so that is interdimensional. She also might be using the Grush thing as a way to say other things that she might have heard or talked about in classified things, that she might really start to play this even more so with the interdimensional side of things. That's where I tend to go with it. That's why when I hear people, there's some guy on I can't remember who it was from the government, who just kind of scoffed at it, said things that Grush didn't say, talked about, factually just misquoted him the whole entire time, and then said, well, it's physically impossible for light years for these things to travel, so it's not UFOs, and it's not aliens. And it's like, I happen to also agree that I don't think they're coming from light years away, these things. But quantum physics is difficult for a reason. There are things that technology can accomplish that we don't know how to use. There are types of technology that might be able to bend time, space, and do other things. That, to me, is more possible than light years away, in the way that I've said many times over. If something's moving really fast from light years away, you can track it and say, shit, that thing's moving fast. It's going to be here in like 8 months. So it moves differently out there. So that's why I think it's just not, you can't zip around and, I don't know, I guess the answer could be like, you don't know what kind of technology these things have, that maybe they're able to move at a different speed, and that very well could be true. I just think that it's more possible on the interdimensional side of things. Now, will those type of things come out in these particular documents? I don't know. I'm still wondering, and like I said, I think that right now it's the way the news works, where there's still news coming out, and rightfully so, about the Epstein files, but it's buried in the cycle now, and that was kind of the goal. It's buried in the cycle. There's documents that are being released and other things, and people ain't talking about it in the way that they were 2-3 weeks ago, because every page of every news organization is all about what's going on in Iran. So this is another, you'd have to find this on this type of story, whether it's on this channel or Pavel's channel or Vetted or wherever you're getting your UFO news. And you know, obviously the great Twitter or websites, whatever, too. Like, you go to UAP James, there's tons of places you can go to get UFO and UAP news. But the main stuff about the files and all that, unless something big happens, I don't know. Anyway, what do you think about this big meeting that's taking place with Luna? You think it's going to amount to anything? Do you think that these documents are actually going to come out soon? Or will there be more information? Will this start to get further into the news cycle? Will anyone care outside of our community? What do you think? Put your thoughts in there. Let us know. Thank you for being here. Sorry for the lack of videos this week. A lot going on. Next week will be definitely be back on track. But thanks again. Appreciate you. And we'll see you on the flip side. Bye.